have a very special guest today. And when I say special, I'm talking special forces. I'm talking about Tim Kennedy. And I'm going to read this because I want to make sure that I don't mess up any of this. I have the most respect for this man. But in his bio, it says he is a Master Sergeant in the U.S. Army Green Berets and a Special Forces Sniper. And to date, he is the only person to win the Army Combatants and be a champion twice, which I think is really cool. But it speaks for itself because he is also a former MMA fighter. He fought for all 4 major organizations, including the UFC and Strikeforce. We actually fought on a card together. So you'll hear us talk about that. We'll review our memories of each other. And we also talk about teaching resiliency in children and his personal parenting style, which I was very interested in. And he's also the co-founder of Apogee Strong, which is a program that is for men and for women, for families to help make leaders on purpose. That is actually what it says here on their website. And they have sort of a homeschool style program, or microschooling, you might want to think of it in those terms. The classrooms are typically 20 kids or less, multi-age. They focus on Socratic discussions, debates, and critical thinking, which is definitely something that I would like for my children. And I think if you are interested in this as well, you will love this podcast. He's a wealth of knowledge, and we didn't even get into his politics and the information that he knows being a military active member, but there are plenty of podcasts where he has talked about that. So I've tried to go a more unique route in really getting to know the man that Tim Kennedy is and how we can turn this ship around for our future. He also has a book out called Stars and Stripes, which is a pretty spectacular self-reflection, and the stories that Tim Kennedy has on and off the battlefield are not only jaw-dropping, but they are moving and inspirational. So if you get a chance, you can check that out. I am listening to it on Audible, and it is a fantastic read. So enjoy this podcast.
Before we get started, I did want to announce the vintage Miesha Tate signed shirt and autograph winner. Drumroll, please. C. Traxler, thank you for your awesome review on Apple Podcast. I'm glad you enjoyed the anti-ice episode where we talk about the reason why icing local injuries delays healing. It does not work to reduce inflammation, and what does actually work with Gary Reinl. I love a good Mythbuster myself. Please go to MieshaTate.com, click Contact Us, then click Ask Miesha a Question, and ask me how I can send you your winnings, which, by the way, all of you can submit a question. And once I have enough individual questions, I'll do some kind of bonus episode where I answer them all. And next week's contest will be for my Spotify users. It's easy. You simply subscribe to the BFG podcast, share it, and leave your best review. I read them all, and the winner will be announced on my newsletter. That's an easy subscribe at MieshaTate.com. I want to give a special thank you to Carol Bike. Thank you for making this episode of Built for Growth possible.
Tim, first of all, thank you for being here. It's freaking awesome to be here. I've been looking forward to this, and people are like, "Oh, could you, bring anybody less qualified, please, to be on your podcast?" So I'm excited to have you here. And I think one of the main things as a mom now that I really wanted to pick your brain about, I'm really curious because I think of you. When I think of you, if I was going to describe you in one word, it would be resilient. I think that you're extremely resilient, and that's just a quality that I strive to have as a person, but I really want to instill in my children.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to be the authoritarian traditional parent that's going to make them resilient through, through forceful. You're going to do as I say because I said so. Yeah. I want my children to be able to navigate their emotions. I want them to be able to get to the other side. So I'm curious in 2 parts what your childhood looked like, because you're very one way. And I'm going through your book. I'm not all the way through. I'm about 3/4 of the way. We had a long drive yesterday home from Phoenix, and so we had that on almost the whole time. And sometimes I was like plugging my daughter's ears, but
Sorry.
No, but it was
not kid safe.
But it's so good. I mean, it's really raw. It's authentic. It's the real you. And I admire not only your courage to be able to, tell the stories that you did, but I mean, you're just a real human. It's awesome.
A very flawed human.
Yeah, but aren't we all? Not everybody has the balls to tell the world about all of our flaws. So I think it's cool that you did that. But I guess I'm curious about your personal relationship with your children, especially your young ones.
Yeah.
You have a 4-year-old, a 9-year-old, and
then girls in college age, adults.
Yeah. So what does that look like? How do you teach resilience? I have a 6-year-old. She's about to be 6. My son is about to be 4. And you have a boy and a girl as well? I
have 3 girls and a boy.
Yeah. So with your younger ones,
what
does that look like? How do you teach them?
Yeah, I think I love the word resilience. And, if I'm looking for a characteristic that I'm trying to impart into them, it's grit. It's not this single focus to accomplish a task so they can get a star on the wall, but rather they're going to have the integrity and fortitude to follow through because it's intrinsically hardwired into their DNA.
Yeah.
There's some fascinating studies coming out about how the human brain works. And one is that every time that you quit, it actually creates a gap neurologically in between the beginning of an action and to the completion of an action. When you quit that thing, your brain is learning to quit easier in the future. And while I totally agree, I'm never going to be that authoritarian parent. I am going to be supportive in ensuring that they can see a task through. The predictor of success is never race or religion, intelligence, whether you score the genetic lottery and you're pretty, if you're strong. It's grit. It's grit and resilience. And being able to give that to the next generation is the greatest gift that we can give. But how do we give them that?
That's what I'm curious about. I mean, I want that for my children too, and I'm constantly in this, and you don't know how to do it exactly right. I mean, nobody hands you a manual. Here's how you do it. So I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm constantly between this balance of gentle parenting, but also not wanting to lean too hard. And, some people might poo-poo gentle parenting. I'm not talking about passive parenting. I'm talking about acknowledging the way that my kids feel, letting them know it's okay to have feelings. Behaviors are expectations, though. So we have lines in the sand that we do not cross.
Yeah.
You can be mad. That's fine. It's not bad or good to be mad. It's not bad or good to be sad. It's a human emotion. Let's get you to the other side of that. But while you're going through that, it's unacceptable to hit. It's unacceptable to throw things. These are the boundaries, and I'm going to hold them. You threw something on the ground, you got to pick it up.
Well, what are consequences of boundaries then? If so. The worst thing that we can do is give them the authority to control where those lines are.
Yes.
And saying, okay, this is where this line is. You can't cross it, or there's going to be consequences. Okay, what are those consequences? And then if heaven forbid, I say the consequence and I don't actually give the consequence for that line crossing, they have then dictated where that boundary is.
Absolutely.
So to oversimplify it, if we look at a nation with sovereign borders, and we say, okay, this is our border, don't cross this, or you've created an incursion to our country and you've invaded us.
Right.
And then they cross that border, and we're like, hey, I told you not to do that. And you're like, well, too late. That's now our land. And that's what's happening in the brain is this is mapping. And it's the most beautiful thing because we see it in real time as they're exploring and pushing and pushing boundaries in a beautiful way, and they're supposed to create, and this is just my opinion, to see grit and resilience. You said perfect parenting. All right, nobody gave us this manual about how to do it perfectly. It's impossible. To create resilience and grit, you can't do it perfectly. There has to be chaos. There has to be anarchy. There has to be failure. There has to be struggle. There has to be arguments. There has to be this that's the only time that there's growth is when there's friction. When something struggles and breaks, when a muscle gets torn, the muscle comes back stronger.
Yeah.
Similarly, when the mind gets broken, two things can happen. It can be permanently damaged, or it can grow back stronger. Going and doing something really, really, really hard, trying to run, a 5:30 mile at 45 right now is hard, and failing and breaking and being so angry, and then going back and reprogramming so I can try and work my time to get to that ultimate goal is what I'm doing both physically and mentally. And well, then how do I program that for a 4-year-old, that like doesn't even have a frontal lobe that's functioning yet.
Right.
So fun.
It's so challenging.
And fun though.
It is fun. And that's why I'm curious. So let's say that your youngest doesn't know how to swim yet. How do you teach them through swimming? Let's use that as an example. Are you the kind of parent that's going to throw them in the water?
Yeah. One of my first memories, I'm serious, and I love my dad. I love you, Dad. One of my first memories is I'd crawled over the fence and into our pool, and my dad had rushed out and pulled me out a couple of times. I'm maybe 3 and maybe 4. Is looking up at my dad's face from under the water as I'm in the drink like this, and he's standing there with his arms crossed looking at me.
Well, did you jump back in, didn't you?
Yeah, like for the 5th time, 10th time. I don't even know how many times I'd done it.
Yeah.
And my dad, after
from your book.
rescuing me multiple times, was like, do you know what?
I'm just going to let you sit there.
He's not going to die.
Yeah.
He's an elite swimmer, water polo player. Like he's made for the water. He's like half fish. But he let me sit there and take some water into my chest for me to have at least a little bit of respect and understanding for the consequence of getting in that water without a parent or an adult be there. For my kids, I have a pool in the backyard. I have the fence, the like kid protective fence that goes around that they my 9-year-old can navigate the thing like a half a heartbeat now. But the 4-year-old still looks at this big kid-proof fence and is like, ugh, and then comes back in and it's like, can you come out in the pool with me? I'm like, why were you out there in the first place? I have to go out there with you. You're not allowed in that pool without us. Not with your brother, not with your friends, not with anybody, just us. And she can swim, but she's 4. So no, she can't be in the pool by herself. Yeah. And she's stubborn. She, like me, is naturally rebellious. If you say no, that in her mind means I have to fight through this no. The
apple doesn't fall too far.
Yeah, 100%. I am getting everything that I deserve in life right now. So with her, there was like a fisher, like a swimmer sink type approach to this, where we had to let her, a few times in the water and pull her out. Like, sweetheart, you can't swim across yet. Let's go to the shallow end and work on it. And seeing her veins on her forehead via stubbornness as she's like keeps swimming back out past where she can touch, and then down she goes, and we go drag her back, and that's so fun.
Was your son the same way? Is he stubborn like that?
He's yes, totally stubborn, but not rebellious.
Okay.
He's like his mother. He is really thoughtful, and he thinks everything through. And she has the send it button immediately. I have, just last week we were hiking in Georgetown, Texas, and we get to this cliff face that's 70, 80 feet up. I'm like, 70, 80 feet. Okay, I'll be traveling, what is that, 40 miles an hour by the time I hit the water? Am I going to break a bone? And I lean down there, there's a guy fishing. I'm like, hey, you got a radar down there? He's like, yeah. I'm like, how deep is it? He's like, 30 feet. I'm like, it's 30 feet where you are? He's like, yeah. I'm like, sick. Are there any logs in the water? He's like, no. That was the last, I heard no, and by the time he finished that last word, I'm launched. And she has that. He would have sat there and calculated fall time, total speed, if you should throw a rock in to break the surface tension of the water. And parenting right now, two complete opposite things is, again, so fun.
Yeah. So I'm wondering then, if you have these two different approaches and two different kids, do you teach your daughter differently the resiliency than you do your son? Or do you find that you do it the same? Or do you think about that? Do you think about a female versus a male? Are there characteristics that you want to make sure that your son has that you feel like maybe aren't as, or is it equally important to have those things?
No, everything's different. I wish I could just be like, here's the perfect parenting book.
Yeah.
That applies to all children.
Yeah.
Just not the way it is.
I don't want my son to be like, I don't want him to be a weenie, and I don't think that he will be, but he's a very sweet boy.
Yeah.
And he's also has his ways of being brave, that my daughter doesn't have, but I guess I want to make sure that he grows up to be a man and has the masculinity and the traits that are attractive, to women who need the femininity protected.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. But I know that I'm a heavy influence in his life, but I'm a mother.
Yeah.
And so I want to just and of course, Johnny's a great father. He really is. So, it's nothing against that. But I guess I wanted to pick because you are so far one way. You're so far a personality. I'm very curious how you navigate the more nurturing side of being a parent.
Yeah. I mean, this is why a man and a woman in the home raising children as a nuclear family is so important.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I am one way. I am full send. Like I will, you look weird at my kids. I want to take your skin and I'm going to wear it like a birthday suit, and I'll literally like dance on your bones as I'm wearing your flesh. And I wouldn't think twice about it.
Right.
And then there's like my beautiful, thoughtful, considerate, loyal to the death wife. And, we're a team, like the yin and the yang, opposites attract, whatever. Like it's perfect at home because of that. Like I never want my kids to really know how violent I have been, to understand like how gentle and caring I am to them. Like they've never seen a harsh hand. Only times they've ever heard my loud voice is to protect them from something like don't run into that street, as he's not paying attention, looking at his friend running towards the place that he wants to go, which is across the street.
Right,
and
right,
and he's like,
and you want to traumatize them in that moment to never run across the street again.
Yeah, for sure. But more importantly, stop him at that second before he gets hit by a car.
Right.
And the only times that they've ever...
Is that how you were raised?
Oh, I was raised in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, so you were...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was...
Has that been a hard cycle for you to break at all?
No.
No?
No. And, I mean...
Oh, man, it's been hard. My mom was a yeller, and I've had to work real hard not to yell at my kids. I mean, I have to work at it.
Yeah.
Constantly to not, to recognize my own shortcomings in that sense, and not scream at them for everything. I work hard at it. So I hope they appreciate that someday, because that shit ain't easy. They push every button in the book, and I'm just like, I'm getting triggered. Take a minute, and then I just like bite my lip, bite my tongue, whatever I can do for my kids, But man, they are the greatest gift and such a big responsibility. Like I don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah.
Like I want to make sure that they have all the balance and everything that I have to offer.
Yeah. You heard the spare the rod, ruin the child. You heard that expression?
I think that's a terrible. I mean, personally, I think it's terrible.
I don't think it's ever been literally though. I think what we're talking about is setting those boundaries with consequences. The rod for my son.
No, there's a lot of dumb people out there that take that literally.
Yeah.
I could see what you're saying.
There's
but
a lot
when
of dumb
you say
people.
spare the rod, spoil the child, you literally think of hitting your child with some object. That is not what and I agree with you. That's not how I would want to interpret that phrase. It's the boundaries that must be set. And I'm good with that. Like when I set a boundary, that's it.
If I hit my son Rolo, he would sit there in that calculating brain of his and process why that was like the most useless form of punishment. Mm-hmm. And he'd literally, I'd watch his brain like grind the gears of like, and then he'd get resentful and like recognizing that was not real punishment. That punishment didn't meet the crime.
Yeah.
But if, for example, we were at lunch with some friends, we're driving back and he starts throwing a fit about something stupid. I pull the car over in this cute little downtown area. I'm like, get out. We're doing burpees. And he's like, what? The social influence of being and other people being able to see that he had made a mistake.
Right.
And like this perfect
I like
little
that.
boy.
I'm gonna put that one in the book for sure.
And we just get out on the side of the street doing burpees and he was horrified. I mean, mortified does not even he gets in the car and he immediately like crossed his legs. He folded his hands. I was like, do you want to say sorry to your mom? He's like, I'm sorry, Mom. I was like, man,
Yeah, nailed that one.
Yeah. But if I had done that to that little 4-year-old, get out, she's like, flow the door over. She would have done 25 extra burpees in the middle of the street.
I've been laughing at
and then
you.
spit on the car and then got back into her seat. And she's like, that didn't do anything.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like
my son.
you got to know how to do
how
them.
to navigate each one.
You know, but with sweet boys, masculinity is sweet. Masculinity is kind. Masculinity is graceful. Masculinity has patience. And that's all based in strength. Like I can be kind and I can be gracious and I can want to be as gentle as possible because like I'll kill you in a heartbeat. You know, like I can.
And part of that I think is realizing you're capable.
Yeah, but you don't know that you're capable until you've pushed those limits.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about sweet boys, and you're not going to be allowed to get in the middle of it, is when he starts hanging around with older boys and they start pushing and they start bullying and they start fighting. That's where sweet boys get that strength.
Yeah. We were just at a wedding, and I'll just give you an example. And I was watching, and he was kind of chest bumping this other kid, and I think he was bugging him. You know, he's being a 3, he's almost 4, he's being annoying. And the kid crossed his arms and just bumped him, and Dax went flying, went to the ground. And you know, my instinct as a mom, you want to run over and check your son. And I assess the situation, and I say, he's okay.
He's fine.
He's fine. He's crying. He's sitting on the ground. He's crying. I was like, I want to see what he does. So I want to see if he figures it out and not intervene, even though I want to come over there and my loving side and be like, oh, my baby, you know. But no, I just let him figure it out. And that's, I think, what you're talking about. And so where I have to learn those things as a mother. I want to talk to you, too, about Apogee, because I'm very curious about that. There's actually one here opening up in Henderson, and I've met the moms. And it just
this year, we're going to have, I think, 2 or 3 more next year.
Yeah, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit about the program, because I guess what I want to get along here is not just, you know, my personal goals as a parent and picking your brain a little bit, but also, how do we help our youth? Because, I mean, we're just not in a generally good, I would say, like trajectory. What I was listening to another statistic, around 77% of military aged men are not qualified to be in the military. I mean, like, where are we headed? Like, how do we turn this ship around?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you say turn the ship around, because it is fixable. Like right now, we're just we have been on a bad azimuth. We're on a bad course, and with a course adjustment, this is not something that, like, the America that we want and hope for is still totally attainable and within reach. And I'm
so glad to hear you say that, because I stress about that all the time. And
I stress about it too.
I feel like someone in your place would have a really good understanding. So you point the ship, and let's hope everybody gets on board.
I mean, we've seen a true J curve, absolute true exponential growth of homeschooling parents in the past 4 years. Year on year, there was 100, 200, 400, 800. It's just happened like that. Private schools, opening private schools, the exact same thing. We are seeing this idea of money following the child instead of public education. So school vouchers is one form where states are passing it, where you get to choose where your child goes to school, and if that child goes to a public school, a portion of your property taxes follow that child to that school. If your child doesn't go to that school, you get a tax credit, and you're able to put them in private school, homeschool. Right now, helpful. Yeah, it is very helpful, and that is a wave.
Everywhere?
That is a wave that's sweeping across the United States. There's like 1 or 2 more moves on the chessboard before it's kind of checkmate for all 50 states. After, like Arkansas, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Texas, California, when those, when like the momentum of key states like California, Texas, and Florida align, then a lot of states follow through. Apogee started with one school in Texas, like school number 1 for us. And the following year, as I was struggling through, there's still things missing with the approach, because we were doing Socratic education, and which is a learner-driven environment, which means like the kids are running the studio, like Lord of the Flies.
It's cool. I mean, it's brilliant.
Super
I think
cool.
It is.
I mean, it's one of the oldest and most successful teaching methods. Socratic is in like Socrates, and following this idea, the studios set up their own laws and rules and how they're going to respect each other and how they're going to talk to each other. And then they all hold each other accountable to this. And there's a guide in there that's ensuring that everybody stays true to those kind of rules that they set. And then, you have the template of education where you're doing your core studies, math and science and grammar and English. In year 2, I met my now partner, Matt Boudreau, and he was running 2 of the largest Socratic schools in the United States. And he and I would go and do a workout, we go get coffee, and we start talking about this question: how do we fix America? Mm-hmm. What is wrong with public education? What is wrong with the current direction? Like divorce is skyrocketing, single mother households, record highs. You see people having children later and later in life. You see less involvement of the dad because of economic reasons. The dad's having to work more to pay for what is ultimately just being able to survive in America financially. And he and I agree that a family has to be the core. The nuclear family is the core of everything. It's the bedrock of a successful economy. It's the bedrock of what will be intellectuals. If you look at every single big tech company CEO right now and look at where their kids are and look at where they went to school, you'll find that not one of them went to public school. Not one of them. You see Montessori's, you see Socratic, you see some homeschoolers, and it's wild when you're like 95% of all of the population go to public school, but then the top 1%, 100% of them didn't spend a day in public education. Like, okay, what's the reason behind this?
Yeah, let's dig into this a little bit.
Yeah, so Apogee was recognizing how important the family is and then looking about what are the most effective ways to create somebody with grit and resilience, character, integrity. And we know that treating them like a lemming is not the method to create somebody with critical thinking, the ability to collaborate, to be creative, or to have true grit or resilience.
Yeah, and to find what their actual individual interests are, and their passions and pursuit. It's a big problem I have with public school, because my daughter, she's in kindergarten, and I said, look, I was really not into the public school, but we found an academy and her friends were going there, and I said, look, we'll try it a year. And it's a good school. It's a good school. Yeah. But it's still a public school, and I don't love it, and it's just not good enough. It's not good enough for what I really want for my daughter, because what I really want for her is I want her, for one, to know her value. I want her to know that she can think for herself. She knows when she's being spoken to disrespectfully. A lot of these kids, I feel like in the public school, what I have noticed is that they're just mean. They're hardened. My kids are not hardened. Yeah. My kids are kind and loving individuals who I want to raise to be tough and resilient. But I just want better for her than what she gets there. And the teachers, I think, are a lot of good people, but their hands are tied. Yeah. They've still got to make the kids meet certain requirements that everyone has to hit the same bookmark at the same time, which is just so unrealistic. And so I think that's what I really liked about diving into the thought behind Apogee. Montessori was something that I had considered as well.
That bookmark that all these kids have to hit, how does that do anything in life as a professional post-education? It doesn't.
I mean, yeah.
There's not a single
answer for that.
No, there's not a single test that's being given to them in elementary school, middle school, high school that is a predictor about where they're going to be successful as an adult. What I absolutely know that it is not preparing them for anything. They can't balance a checkbook. They don't even know what a checkbook is. They don't know how to fill a car up. They don't know how to change a car tire. They don't even know the tire pressure of their cars. They don't know how to check the oil of their car. Yeah. They don't even understand like how electric vehicles work differently than a regular gas-powered vehicle. Like they're so uselessly ignorant. They're of no value. And as an entrepreneur, when this in the past generation or two have like walked through the doors, you provide no value to me. Like, I get it. You went and spent $100,000 on an education, and you've been programmed that now you're worth something. You're not worth anything.
That you're programmable.
Yeah, that's all you've shown me.
Yeah, and it's not. I want somebody who thinks for themselves.
I don't have time to program you.
Yeah, you solve the problems yourself.
Yeah, you need to come in here, and I'm going to give you a bunch of problems that you have to solve. I can't teach you how to solve the problems. That should have happened for the past 10 years. Like when you get to the harvest portion of your life, my friend Joe, he texted me a couple of weeks ago, "Hey man, just checking in. How you doing?" I was like, "Man, I am grinding right now." He's like, good. You're in the harvest phase of your life. I'm like, the harvest phase? He's like, yeah. This is the culmination of all of the things that you've learned, all the skills that you've accumulated in the first half of your life. And right now you have to harvest so that you can live and be able to provide for your family. And then when you can't work, you'll be able to survive and not be a drain on the rest of your family. And I was like, harvest phase? What? That's amazing, Joe. Like, first of all, that's brilliant. And then I was like, okay, well, let me break these phases down. When you, during like the development, accumulating these skills, what are the skills that we're trying to give the next generation? Mm-hmm. And if you take a step back and objectively look at what school is providing them, and if you could point to any skill that's usable,
it's nonsense.
There's nothing. It's nonsense. It's useless.
Yeah. Well, okay, maybe math isn't. We get some value out of that.
Oh, I'll
right?
tell you, I can teach you math way better than the 90 minutes that you're spending a day that you're then testing a star about the most useless way to learn it.
Oh, I agree. The way to learn it is not. It's not great. And I look back. So were you in public school? You were homeschooled?
I was homeschooled.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm almost embarrassed to tell you now that don't judge me, but I was public school, and I look back on it, and I was like, you know how much time I wasted?
Do you know what time I was done with school in a day?
It takes like 90 minutes to teach a curriculum.
10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I was done. I graduated from high school at 15. I started college at 15, as did my wife. We were both done with our undergrad.
This is what our kids are capable of.
Yeah.
We're holding them back.
And so, the state would say, this is how much work you would have to accomplish in a day. And I'd be like, oh, I can do that in 2 hours. Yeah. We'd have breakfast. We wouldn't get up at like some crazy time in the morning. We'd just wake up, we'd have breakfast. And then I'd do work for like 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And then I'd go do gangster stuff. Like you read my book. Like I'm in the creek.
Wild.
I'm like I'm feral, absolutely feral, stealing tires, so we can go float down the river.
But think like you learned so much in those moments, and that's where you actually learn about life.
Yeah.
It's not in a school. It's not in the four walls with your nose in a book being told to shut up, sit down, and listen.
Oh.
In case you guys didn't hear earlier, this episode of the BFG podcast is sponsored by Carol Bike. I got one. I love it because although it's cute to ride a bike for 20 or 30 minutes and get your cardio in, it just doesn't accomplish what Carol Bike does in 5 minutes. And that's probably because Carol Bike has collaborated with top exercise scientists to get you fittest, fastest. It is intense, it's effective, and it has revolutionized how I approach fitness, especially on my busiest days. Use code Miesha, that's Miesha, for $100 off at checkout when you visit carolbike.com.
I think about that too, and they have to be able to employ or have a reason to have people there for 8 hours a day. And the reason is not the kids. It's really, you think about it, right? How much time is wasted? And we have lunch, and then you have recess, and you have this, and you have that. You could be at home with your family, creating memories and bonds that we don't see anymore because everyone's
You know the origin of public education?
I do, yeah. I mean,
Rockefeller.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he wanted tax burdens and factory workers. He wanted mules to pay taxes, and he wanted mules to carry literally the load of his factory. Those were the two things that he asked for. I need you to make me factory workers that can pay taxes. That is the beginning of public education. Yeah. Like he never wanted to teach someone how to be a manager or how to be an executive. He would hire one of those from one of the private universities or private schools that he and his friends were attending. But everybody else, to keep them poor and to keep them as tax mules, then send them to public school. And I know that there's a lot of great people that are trying to do good in the public education, and they feel like their hands are tied. There's the bureaucracy of it. There's the teacher union. Burn it down. You have to burn it down, and maybe a phoenix will rise from the ashes. But for right now, it's it's hopeless. And the only reason that we see great kids coming out of the public education system is because they're great kids with great parents, and they were able to resist all of the failures of the system itself.
In spite of. Yeah.
But imagine that same great kid given the same opportunities to go to like a Montessori or go to an Apogee or go to an Acton, you know, and like the sky's the limits.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna have 50 designers of the Apple phone, not one. You know, because he went to private school, and as did all of his kids.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I would say the best thing that came for me through public school was that I started wrestling
Yeah.
when I was in high school. And fortunately, because, you know, I didn't grow up a wealthy child, so, you know, being able to afford extracurricular activities was tough at that time for my parents. And so I just was like, can you just get me a pair of wrestling shoes? Actually, we didn't even tell my dad that I was wrestling at first. He just met my dad, I know, before I came in here. We didn't tell him because my mom was like,
He's great too, man.
yeah, he good. You know, he wouldn't have understood it at that time for a young girl because it was on the men's team.
Yeah.
You know, and she was, you know, I couldn't imagine. I now as a parent, even as a mother, but especially as a father with your daughter, the relationship that you have, and you want to make sure that she's safe and protected, and it's not in singlets and you know, on a mat like with a bunch of teenage boys. But man, I learned some really valuable things then. For one, I learned that perception can be changed because it was not welcomed. It was actually my best friend and I went out for wrestling. I was 15 years old. And the first practice was just getting our asses kicked on purpose. I mean, I didn't wrestle a day in my life for that. And they put me in there with the state placer. And, you know, they wanted to get us out of there. But that was the moment that I learned that I enjoy the challenge, right? It was like I left with mat burns all over me. And I was like, you know what? Like, there's something to this. Like, I want to keep coming back. I'm terrible. I'm absolutely the worst. I've been exposed. I do not know how to wrestle at all. I didn't have older brothers. I think the only thing that drew me to it must have been fate. It must have been destiny. I think there's some divine intervention in all of this. Yeah. But I couldn't play basketball to save my life, and I didn't want to. And it was the only female sport offered in the winter. So I would rather go out and wrestle than play basketball. It tells you how much. I don't think I've ever touched a basketball since high school PE when we had to. So I went out for wrestling, and by the end of 4 years, my junior year, I was actually the only girl to come back. Because my best friend at the time, I remember being so mad at her because she didn't come out for the team. And I was like, "What are you?" I'm like, "You're my partner. I train with you all the time." It was the best thing that could happen to me. Because then I only had to wrestle the dudes, and I had to start analyzing what was physically different about me and their movements. Like, how are they? Oh, when they go in for a double leg, it's like it's powerful, it's strong. It's like I got to try to be more like that. I got to try to narrow the gap. And obviously there's a gap, but let me try to be as much like them as I can. And not having her there was so good because then I only could wrestle the guys, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up wrestling varsity my senior year, which was, I got smoked. I mean, I did not hang at all. I was a sacrificial lamb. It was honestly just because we didn't have a 152 pounder. So both of us would weigh in at 145, me and the team captain. And then they would choose what match was more likely for him to win, and I would get the other one. Even if I was wrestling 152 and I weighed in at 145, and I would just get, smoked. But I was hard to pin. My only goal was to not give up, to not give up 6 points, to only give up 5.
Wow.
You know, so that's where I started that whole path of resiliency. By the way, did you know? What were we gonna say?
No, I'm just thinking how amazing wrestling is.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It nothing gives a human a superpower like wrestling. Grit and resilience, like those characteristics.
Yes.
Like you will not find somebody that has more of it than a wrestler. And you see that in your fights. You've seen that in your approach to training. You've seen that in every element of your life. You know, like, and I think all of that can be attributed to wrestling.
I attribute so many of my successes in life to wrestling. Those 4 years formulated a foundation for the rest of my life. And what it really taught me is, as I mentioned, one, perception can be changed, because by my senior year, I was loved and appreciated. And if any other girls came out on the team and they weren't serious, they were like, "Miesha, get her out of here. You know, take care of her, roll her up, get her."
I wish love how women's wrestling in high school has just exploded. Yeah. You know, it's just every school has it.
Yeah.
Not yet. If you don't, you should. But you just, it's so fun to watch these beautiful little girls go out there and just destroy each other, but more importantly, the quitter in them. And and the end result is like a beautiful, powerful young woman.
Yeah. My senior year was the first year that we had women. Well, it was actually my junior year, but I broke my ankle 2 weeks before. It was so disheartening. That was my first year where women wrestled a round robin tournament at the Tacoma Dome in Washington State between the men's state wrestling tournament. So it was the first time that females actually got to get on the mat and be sort of a part of the big lights.
Yeah.
And then by my senior year, I was healed up and I came back and I won it. And it was a great feeling. But the other thing that wrestling taught me is, or that I know from wrestling, is I never would have known how tough I am had it not been for wrestling.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known. And what a shame. What a shame to, like, I think that some people never reached that understanding of what they're really capable of.
It's one of my greatest pities for people is that they never push to find out how tough they are or what they're capable of. And you never know until you just keep going into those deep waters and drowning. And then like finally you get up, you take another breath and you're like, I can go deeper. And then you go down and you just repeat until
it's so rewarding.
It is so rewarding. It changes everything about the way that you look at life.
Did you know there's a part of the brain, and I probably butcher exactly how to say it because I'm obviously not the smartest person in the room, but it's like the mid-angulate singular cortex, I think is what you call it. And it's this part of the brain that grows when you do something hard intentionally. So like if you hate getting in the ice bath and you're like, I'm going to be diligent, I'm going to get in the ice bath every single day, and you hate it, but you do it anyways, this part of your brain actually grows. So people who are obese, this is like emaciated. People who are, well, maybe that's overgeneralization, but oftentimes is what they see, and as they're studying the brain, that this is a part of the brain that can shrink or it can grow. And it's literally dictated by choosing to do something hard. So if you fall off a boat in ice water and you didn't want to do it, that's not the same thing. It's not the getting in the cold water. It's the choice that you show up and you do something hard. And then that part of your brain begins to flourish and grow. And I almost would say that perhaps the reward that you get from it, the addictive quality of doing something hard and knowing that you can do that, or that you can overcome difficult situations. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that feeling of wanting to quit.
Yeah,
I love it. I actually named it. And
okay, what is it?
I can't tell you because
it's not appropriate.
No, but like that would come up into my face, and I would like look at it with absolute disdain and hate. And I'm like, I've named it. Like I've named this thing that I want to get out of the ice bath, or I don't want to get up early today to get my workout in because I know I have 10 hours of work, and this is going to be only my chance that I'm going to get. If I want to make it home in time to be present for dinner with the kids, I have to do it now. Otherwise, I'm not going to get a workout in. And as I'm sitting, you pick up your phone and you're about to set the alarm clock. Like, am I going to do it at 4:30 or am I going to do it at 6? Like 4:30, I get a workout. 6, I'll have my 10-hour work day and make it home in time for having dinner with the kids, but no workout. It's literally like, and it's sitting there in my face at that time, do or don't. And so I've like attached a name to it. And I only need to do, 60 seconds in the cold plunge compared to the 5 minutes at 37 degrees. Like, no, I'll just name it. And then every time it comes up, I'm like, you're such a coward. And I know you, and I've named you, and I defeat you every day for that.
That's an important quality to have. I think more people should identify the different traits and give them names. Yeah. It could be you could call it anything, but it's kind of like, it's your inner bitch, basically.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Just call it what it is. Hey, I'm not going to feed into this. I recognize that I have it. It's here. I'm going to push past it. I'm going to move beyond it. And I think that's why I fell in love with fighting. And it was another thing that I fell into my lap. It wasn't something that I was seeking out, but it just happened. And I was like, fuck it, what's the worst that can happen? That's kind of been my approach to everything. It was like, what's the worst that can happen? Yeah. I guess I want to find out.
Yeah, I think that is way understating, one, how talented you are and how much work you had put into initially fighting. You were not just a pioneer of the sport, like the perennial contender, and you've had. Miesha, you're a badass. Like, just
dang, I was one of the most badass humans on the planet. Calling me a badass is quite flattering. Thank you.
Some of the biggest fights. I'm not going to even relegate it to women fights. I'm just going to say the biggest fights in MMA history are on your record. It's pretty freaking sick.
Thank you. No, it's I'm grateful.
Should we talk to
That's
Brian
all it is.
Callen? Have you had him on here yet?
I have not. Should I have him on here?
Yeah.
He's pretty great.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
Yeah, say hi.
Hey, Brian. I'm in the middle of Miesha Tate's podcast, but you should come on here with her. Oh, he says he loves you. Wait, say it again. He says that he's a bigger fan.
I'm a bigger fan of Miesha Tate than you are.
Oh, you shut your mouth. I literally just got done complimenting her fight career. All right, I would fight you for her, even though you would beat me. I would fight you for her and take the beating. So just to show her how valiant I am. All right, love you, big guy.
Right. Call me. I have a thing for us.
Okay, bye.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Told you.
So cool. That's awesome.
He didn't know
I'd
I
love
was
to
here
have that.
either, but he is like a huge.
That's badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put us in contact after this. I'd love
He's
to.
hilarious too.
Yeah.
Not just like the comedian part of him, because like that's funny, but that's like, his professional thing. Just him as a person. He's an amazing person. He's wildly brilliant. That guy's wickedly smart, and he is a riot. He's
Okay,
just
well,
like
perfect. He sounds like my kind of people.
Yeah. You could talk
Just
about
the
history.
fact that he challenged you to a fight, I was like, this dude's awesome.
Oh, and he would too. If he's like the opportunity to like hang out and chat with you, he's like, oh, I'll fight you. He's like
awesome.
this big too. Like I was just like,
But it's what the size of the fight and the what is that quote? I'm gonna butcher.
yeah,
it
it's
now.
not
I
the
don't
not
know,
not the size of the. It's not the size of the fight in the dog, but rather.
the size.
I don't think that's true though.
No?
I think like the size of the dog really does matter.
Does matter. It does matter. It does for sure.
'Cause if you
But
got a
we gotta
big dog
inspire
with-
people, even little people, to still be courageous, right?
Yeah,
That's
but
like
I'll
the whole
break Brian Callen in half. Yeah, the last time we fought, we were on the southern coast of France, and I don't know, he got a little carried away with the bravado,
Mm-hmm.
and I started like leg riding him and taking his face into the sand. We were in Biarritz, France. That was great. Sorry, Brian. Love you.
It's all right. I mean, he called in the middle of the podcast. This is well deserving. Where's I going to go with my next point of that?
I've work phone down, but like my friend and family phone up.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
don't even know. I have mine tucked under my.
Yeah, because if
thing.
you see like wife call or school call,
You gotta answer it.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So, fighting. That's where I wanted to move with you next. Did you know? And I didn't know this, by the way, so it's okay if you didn't know this. But did you know? I actually hope you don't, because I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't realize this. But at the time, I wasn't a fan of MMA. I'm still sort of a fan of MMA, but not like a big. I'm more of like the doer. I just show up
Sames.
and do. I don't
Yeah.
watch a lot.
Same season.
Yeah. So, but we were on the same card in Chicago
I
in
was
Strike
aware.
Force.
Yep.
Yeah. But, I imagine I was like, maybe he would remember me just because we're the only girls
Yeah, I
on the
remember.
card, the only females. Yeah. It was, but I didn't have any like recollection. I was like, oh shit, we were on the same card. That's when I fought Marlis Kunin and you fought
Robbie Lawler.
Robbie Lawler.
Yep.
Yeah. You were the fight before me, which is fair to say. I probably wasn't watching the fight before me, but
It was a bloodbath.
that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, this was Robbie's rear hand. He's a southpaw. Blasted me with an uppercut as I came in.
Yeah.
25-minute bloodbath.
That's 25 minutes?
I think
It
so.
was?
Yep. We're main event or co-main?
You were semi-co-main.
Mm,
So, well, either way, I'm sure it was
that was
whether it was
awesome.
15 or 25.
He's a
Yeah.
monster. Hall of Fame now.
Yeah. You think that's coming for you?
No. I think I only had like 5 or 7 fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
Were
Both of your title challenges, were they
Strike Force.
were in Strike Force?
Mhm.
Yeah. That's wild to me. When I went back and looked, because that was one of my most memorable fights. The first time that I became a world champ, and I came in with an injury. I came in with an injured knee, and I just remember everyone telling me that I shouldn't fight, like everyone, and they were like, it's so dumb, you should pull. And I was like, no, I know I can do it.
She was so
Despite
good
the
too.
injury.
It was
At the time, she was. Well, she went from my idol to my rival.
yeah.
And that was real trippy for me.
Like
'cause I
she was
remember-
the girl to beat in
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah. I remember watching her fight Cyborg a couple years before
Yeah.
that. And I was like, dude, she's a badass. Like, she's
Yeah.
a beast. I mean, she hit Cyborg. Now, obviously, Cyborg's like made of concrete, so she didn't even like move. But I saw the power, and I was like, the respect, the
Yeah.
way she went out there, she wasn't scared of her. I was like, man, I was like, and it's so funny because I don't know why, but I literally had the thought, I was so young. I don't even know if I had my first fight in Strike Force yet. It must have been like 21 maybe.
Yeah.
And I was watching her fight and I was like, oh, I hope I never have to fight her.
Huh.
I know, such a weird, like, it's not really, but that's the honest truth. I was like, God, I hope I never have to fight her. She's such a beast. And it wasn't Cyborg that I was hoping I never. I was just like, it was Marloes. I was so impressed. I mean, Cyborg was already, you know.
Yeah, Cyborg.
Leave her own. But Marloes, I think it was the spirit. It was just, you know. But then by the time I got to fight her, like, I didn't have that little voice, that little girl,
You mauled her.
Was not the same. I had grown into myself and my confidence, and I knew that.
I watched you fight that night.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're stitching my face up, and they had the TVs in the back.
Yeah.
And, you know, they wouldn't let you leave. And they're like, hey, we want to send you to the hospital to get sewn up. I was like, like, I'll literally do it in the hotel. You like, forget who you're talking about right now. And, like, because I was just fighting for fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I was still like a special forces guy. And I was like, literally, give me my check. I want to leave, and if you're going to sew my face up, do it right now. And they're like, fine. You're like, why are you the way that you are? And I was like, sew my face up. And then there you were as they were sewing my face up.
Oh, shit.
So I was
What a
like going like
memory.
this, trying to watch as he was sewing my face.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's
Sick.
so cool. Have you always, I mean, I guess I wanted to ask you a little bit about you always seem so positive and supportive of women and females, and I think that is such a great quality to have from a strong male like yourself, because sometimes you see men in these positions and I guess I think they're not truly confident.
They're bitches.
Yeah, they're not truly
Yeah, they're
confident.
not
They're
real men.
afraid of strong women.
Nah.
And I was like, strong men want to propel women to
Yeah.
be strong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
talk-
any
like,
guy
talk
that's
about-
like holding a girl down or like in any way disparaging or not providing opportunities for them to succeed, like they're just bitches. Like they're not real men. And I in the household, in whatever that woman wants to do, you empower her to do that. Like that is your job as a man. And I think that's where like masculinity's really gotten confused and where feminism has really gotten confused. Because like feminism and real masculinity, those two things should really align beautifully. And like not just as a father of 3 daughters, you know, not just like married to a beautiful, brilliant, powerful woman, but like the world as a whole, you know, rising tides, all ships are raised. Why wouldn't you want successful, like in your home, in your business, you know, in your circle, why wouldn't you want the best for everyone and providing the best resources and tools to see them succeed? Because that will absolutely elevate you just from a selfish perspective.
Yeah.
It will help you,
Yeah.
you know, but like if you're a tiny little pecker and your ego is the thing that's getting in the way of you like trying to help somebody out, bro, yeah, you have problems.
You know, I would think if I were the husband in the relationship that it doesn't need to be a competition, right? I would want my wife, I would want to know the one who's primarily in charge of my children, that she could run out of the way of a bus that swerved off, that she could carry my children, that she's not going to fall on her face and not be able to get up because the stroller's rolling towards the street. Like I would want my wife to be capable of taking care of and protecting my children. Because men are under the illusion sometimes, some men, that they will provide that, but they will provide it if they're there. But a lot of times they're working, they're gone, they're doing this. Wouldn't you want the person that's home with your kids to be capable, like at least capable?
Who's protecting my kids right now? Like I'm literally
Your
sitting here
wife.
with you, my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't you want her to be like as capable as she could be?
And have I not provided every imaginable resource for her?
To be capable.
Yeah. And there's also nothing wrong with competition. Like, go run with my wife. Like you want to have your soul, you get your grit and resilience tested, you know, go run with this like twig of a human that just never gets tired.
Yeah.
And it's really hard on the ego.
Yeah.
But like my competitive spirit of like wanting to beat her is like very there. And her competitive spirit of like, oh no, bro, like not today, not tomorrow, not ever. You know, it's like, all right, we'll get on the rower and let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
You know, so, but it's like a beautiful, healthy,
It is. It's synergy,
natural
right?
push. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you a funny story, and I almost hope Johnny's not still in the other room because he's going to be like, you told that on the air? No, he's actually really cool. Johnny's he's
great.
Such a great, oh my God, he's such a great man, not controlling, always propelling me to be forward, never we're competitive, but not like in the ways that would be detrimental.
He was a talented wrestler.
Yeah, he wrestled for Boise State.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I'll tell you this. So we were dating, and he was in Thailand, and I was going over to do some seminars or something like that, and we overseas as well, and we ended up meeting up in Australia.
Ooh.
I know, it was great. It was, it was fantastic. It was like, you love to travel, I love to travel. I started to really kind of fall for him in this. But I'll tell you what, I was out of a 9-year, very toxic, very oppressing kind of relationship that I had to compartmentalize and kind of just, I used disassociation. That was kind of my skill set of getting through I was strong, so I knew I could endure, but I want to send a message to women, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And once I got out of that relationship and, I had some time to myself, and then I, started dating Johnny a little bit. And anyways, we met up in Australia, and we went to grapple. We went to my friend's gym. Okay. So we get there, and I don't think him and I had really trained together before, even though we were both at Extreme Couture. He's a bit bigger than I am, and it was just never really a point. I kind of always went with blinders on anyways. I didn't want, to send the wrong message to any of the dudes or whatever. It's like, I'm here to train, be serious, not to play grab ass. So he actually thought I was really stuck up before. He thought I was super stuck up. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that you thought that I was stuck up. I'm not a stuck up person. I'm actually a nice person. But when random dudes that I don't know at the gym try to come and talk to me, I'm going to shut you down. Like, I'm not going to be rude, but I'm going to let you know, like, I'm not here for that reason. And, so anyways, we're there, we're training, we're rolling for the first time. And I have a really good guillotine. I have a nasty guillotine. And I like to hit it from the top side. And I'm like, I've got him in the prime position, and he's a wrestler. So of course, he rolls right into it, bridges right into this guillotine. And I've got it. And I think for a second to myself, is he going to think it's really unattractive if I choke him out? Like, should I let him out of this and like spare his ego? Cause I don't, maybe he wouldn't like me after that. This is all quick thoughts. And I got this, and I'm like, nah.
I love this.
And I just went for it, and he went out.
Oh,
He was out cold.
sick.
Yeah. And I woke up, and he took it like a champ.
Yeah.
And he was just like cool. Like, he choked me out. And now he always tells all of his buddies or anybody who's going to roll with me, like, dude, you have to roll with her like she's a man. You cannot roll with her like she's like, don't think that she's a
full
girl.
transparency. When I was like, hey, are you training today? Like, you going to train before the podcast or after? And I didn't know if you're going to say like, hey, we're grappling, or we're going to be at Extreme Couture, or wrestling, or we're going to be doing, I had no idea what you were going to say. And if it was like grappling or wrestling in any form, I had already in my mind been like, I have to treat her like a man. Because I know how good you are. And I was like, there's not going to be a moment where I'm like, give you anything, because you'll just choke me unconscious. So I had already decided that in my mind about how I was going to.
You're clearly homeschooled.
Yeah.
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 You're smart.
Yeah.
I love it. So, that was my story, I guess.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
But what a testament to his character,
it was.
to his ego, to like.
And I needed to know that, because I didn't want to enter another relationship where I felt like I had to hold any part of myself back.
Yeah.
I needed to know that he was going to be okay with me being strong and capable.
Yeah. Have you caught him since then?
No.
Yeah.
No, he knew since. I've been close.
Yeah.
But he will literally throw me off of him, like, if I need. And he knows now. He knows what I'm capable of, so he rolls with me, hard.
Yeah.
And we roll hard, and we never hurt each other, but we battle.
Yeah.
Like, we go at it, and he will not give me not an inch.
That's
nothing.
awesome. And I want you guys to come to Austin. You have so
love
much
it.
fun. And there's so many athletes that you're both your sizes.
Well, now that I know that there's better barbecue than Terry Black's, which was mind-blowing.
No, Terry Black's is fine, but the original Terry Black's is not in Austin. It's in Lockhart. It's like 50 minutes away.
Okay.
So like you went to a suburb fake replica.
Dude, but I saw like I saw the barbecues and the way that they had all the meat.
Yeah, I mean they followed the recipe,
incredible.
but barbecue's not just about like the recipe and the meat. It is, but it's also about like the experience and the culture and the moment and the environment. And like if you're going back to a building that's been there since the 1800s, it's been owned by the family since the beginning of Texas, and like you're walking into the same smokehouses that have been there for like 150, 200 years. Now we're talking. Yeah. Now we're talking a real smokehouse. So like Black's in Austin or Black's in Lockhart. They can't even be compared.
Oh my God.
Like completely different.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. I would absolutely love to.
I passed there.
Does your wife train?
No,
she doesn't.
Not in she's she trains 6-8 times a week. but no like pugilistic sports.
Okay.
Super fit, CrossFit, running, like one of those 50-minute boot camp things that they do, and she does those like 3 days a week. And then she shoots a little bit, but not in a competitive way.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Well, I'm gonna accept the offer.
'Kay.
So tempt me with a good time. I
Yeah.
will be there. We'll get some good barbecue. We'll train.
I'm so sorry I missed you last time for your fight when you were last time in Austin, and I was traveling.
Yeah.
I was overseas.
Yeah, I think you were. I think you like left the day I was coming in or something like
pissed.
that, or you weren't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But no, it's all good. We'll make it up for sure, and we'll bring the kids, get the kids together. Yeah, teach them some resiliency.
Yeah. You check out Apogee. Yeah, we're gonna.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna be building kind of like the flagship campus, because
Did you say there's gonna be 2 or 3 more here
that's right.
in the Las Vegas area?
Yeah.
Man,
We're not messing around.
I love it.
Like-
No, maybe when we move to Boise, there's not any in that area
There
yet,
are.
right? There is
Yeah.
the same Apogee program. Okay, awesome. Well, I gotta
We'll
find
have
a place
500 next year.
to be a part of this, and
Well, you could just open one.
that's what I
be
would
like,
love it. I would love to open one.
These aren't like Tim
I
Kennedy
just
schools.
don't want to like go on top of like I know they have to be a certain distance from each
Yeah,
other.
like,
and not be,
it's a big country.
Yeah.
And like the way that people are jumping from the sinking ship that is current education and finding real methods to provide critical thinking and collaboration and creativity to their children, it's not. Yeah, go open your own
badass.
school.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I want. That's on my to-do list. And Johnny's like, oh my god, load management, Miesha. That's not my strong point. Load management's not my strong point. I'm
That's
just
all
like throw it all
Let's
on. I'll
go.
just find a way to make it happen. Yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was a good conversation. I feel like I got to know you a little bit better.
And one last thank you to Carol Bike. Remember, use code Miesha, that's MIESHA, for $100 off at checkout when you visit carolbike.com.